Welcome one and all. Today's session discusses about topics like subroutines, macros, passing parameters and use of stack. Myself Sridevi TR, Assistant Professor, Department of CSE, RSET. First one, subroutine. Subroutines are a sequence of instructions which is a logic unit. So it is a piece of or a snippet of code which performs a particular operation. And this is also called procedures or functions. Their main and original purpose is to reduce the amount of code which must be repetitively written for the program. If you are making that frequent code into a procedure, we can invoke or call that particular piece of code whenever we want to do it, instead of rewriting it all over again. So that is one of the main advantage of a subroutine. It also allows a code by another programmer to be used in a different program than it was originally written for. So in this figure, you will get a better idea what a subroutine is. You can see on the left hand side there is a main program. From there, using some instruction, you will be calling or invoking a subroutine with a name A. When it is being called, the program control flow will suddenly transfer into the first instruction of that subroutine. So from there, it will take one by one the instructions of subroutine A till it encounters a return statement. So once that subroutine is successfully completed, the control will again come back to the original main program and it will continue its execution from the next instruction after the call. Similarly, after some time, if again subroutine A is in demand, again we can invoke. This control will go to the same memory where that subroutine A is stored, and similarly it follows the control flow till it reaches the return statement and control comes back to the next instruction. So the subroutines can go to any level. From the main program, you can see a subroutine called express has been called. It is also possible to have another call from within this procedure to another procedure called eval, and eval also can have a call to another subroutine. It may go like that. It may go to any extent. So that is a speciality of call instructions. So this is an example for a subroutine call in 8086 assembly programming. So in this particular subroutine named square, it's trying to, or it's actually finding the squares, the contents of BL register, and places the resulting BX. So whatever number we want to get the square of, we will be putting that into BL register, and after the execution of this particular subroutine named square, we should get the result into BX register. So as you can see, the first statement, square pros near. So square was the name of the procedure, and in order to indicate that it is a procedure, it is followed by a keyword called PROC, indicating procedure. And then there is a near command. So this near indicates that this procedure is within the segment. So once we enter inside, you can see that we are pushing the value of AX. Whatever is the value in AX, we are just keeping it safe because we are going to use AX from the coming next instruction for this particular subroutine. You know that whatever operations we have to do by the ALU, it should be bring to the AX or accumulator register. So we are supposed to get the number to get the square in the bx. It is there in bl. So we will just moving that entire bl including bh, that bx, everything we are just moving into the accumulator. Then we are writing imul command. Imul command stands for whatever is the operand coming after that, it will be multiplied by itself. And the results will get saved in AX. So move BX comma AX. So AX is the result what we got after the multiplication. That will be moved to BX. And if there was any data previously in the AX, that could be popped out now. So AX will be having the previous value before it was used in this particular subroutine. Then we call the RET command. So the control will go back to the instruction soon after that call command. So here, how do you invoke the procedure? We are just using that name of the procedure. And square end P indicates the end of that procedure named square. So if you have to pass parameters to a procedure, in the previous case it was a procedure without any parameters, but there are scenarios where we want to pass some parameters to this procedure. And there are four major ways of passing parameters to a procedure. The first one, passing parameters using registers, then using memory, using pointers, and using stack. Let's see one by one. First one is passing parameters using registers. So from the name itself, we can understand that here the data to be passed is stored in the registers, and these registers are accessed in the procedure to process the data. A very simple technique. So here we are actually using two variables, multiplicand and multiplier, with it's a word data it's having values specified here, and we are going to invoke a procedure by using call command, call multi. And so this multi command, so whenever there is a call command, as we discussed earlier, the control will directly goes to this statement, that is multi procedure near, the instruction from which the definition of a procedure named multi is defined. So what is inside that? We are using mul command, mul bx. But what is mean by mul bx? It will be multiplying the value of bx with the value of ax. Here ax is not specifically written, but it is understood that one of the operand is ax. So mul, we are multiplying the value of ax with bx, and where the results will be saved, it will be saved back to ax. The old value of ax will be replaced with the product. Then you have an RET command, then multi end p. So whenever this multi end p it comes, the control will go back to the instruction after this call multi command. So this is where the parameters, where we didn't pass any parameters like that, but we have saved the parameters into a register, so that from within the procedure you can just use that registers to get the values. One, we are passing the parameters using memory. So previously the parameters were saved in registers. Here the parameters will be saved in memory. So memory means whenever we are writing after dot data, whenever we are writing multiplicand dw1234h, what it is specifying or what it indicates, it is specified or it has allocated a memory space identified by the name multiplicand, and it has loaded a word data. It has allocated 2 bytes of data to store a word data called 1234H. So multiplicand is nothing but a name for a particular memory location. And similarly, multiplier, it takes another 2 bytes of data with the value 4232H. And then we are invoking, like in our previous examples, we are invoking using the call command, the procedure multi. Within the multi command, what we are directly using move AX comma multiplicand. And multiplicand is nothing but a memory space in which the value 1234 is saved. Then we just moved BX with the memory location multiplier. Then we go for the multiplication, and after the multiplication the result is in AX. We can move that AX into back to the multiplication, another variable. So we are storing the multiplication value in named memory location. The third one, we are passing the parameters using pointers. You know the concept of pointers. Pointers are nothing but the variables which holds the address. So here we are saving the address, offset address of these memory variables multiplicand and multiplier into SI and DI registers respectively. So SI holds the address where multiplicand is saved, and DI holds the address where multiplier is saved. We are also setting an offset value where your result multiplication is going to get saved into the register BX. Now we are invoking the multi command. Within the multi command, how will you get the value stored in a memory location identified by a variable multiplicand? You have given the offset value of multiplicand into SI. That means SI holds the address. If SI holds the address, if you have to get the value from that address, what you need to do? You need to go for register indirect addressing mode. That means you have to enclose the SI register within a square bracket. That indicates the value within SI is not the data but an address. And within it will go to that address, it will fetch the data from there, and that will get moved to AL. Now the value within AL is nothing but the value of multiplicand. In this example it is 12H. Similarly, BL will get loaded with multiplier. After the multiplication, the result is there in AX. That will be moved to BX. So we are storing the result in a location pointed to by the BX. Then after that you have the RET command and multi-NP. Last method is passing parameters using stack. So in order to pass the parameters using stack, what all are the required parameters? We have to push that into the stack, and once we are inside the procedure, we'll be popping those elements and we'll be using within that procedure. So in this case, as in the previous example, we have two values under the variable names multiplicand and multiplier, and we'll be pushing that into the stack using this push commands. So first multiplicand is pushed and then multiplier is pushed. So now it is moved, the top element of the stack is multiplier. And you also know that when call command is invoked, the address of the next instruction will be safely stored within the stack, so that after this multi procedure has ended or completed its execution successfully, the control has to come back to this instruction which is soon after the call command. So that address should be saved somewhere, because your IP instruction pointer register will be currently holding the value addresses of the instructions within that procedure. So that in this instruction address should be safely stored. So that also will get pushed into the stack. And now currently your multiplicand is pushed, multiplier is pushed, and then the address of the next instruction of the call command. 3 have been pushed. Now once we are inside the procedure, we are going to use our base pointer register to hold the value of stack pointer. So before passing or before writing the stack pointer register value into this base pointer, we are just keeping the value or initial value of base pointer inside the stack. So currently there are 4 elements within the stack. First one multiplicand, then multiplier, then the address of the next instruction of call command, and then the value of the base pointer. Now as you can see, in order to access the multiplicand value, it is using a base pointer plus 6 value. Why it is 6? Because in the stack we have now 4 values. First one multiplicand, then multiplier, then IP register value, the address of the next instruction of the call command, and then the base pointer value. So base pointer value is within the SP, that is the top element. Then after that you have the address of the next instruction, that is BP plus 2, and then you have the multiplier, that is BP plus 4, then the multiplicand BP plus 6. So in order to access multiplicand we have been used BP plus 6, and in order to get the multiplier we are using BP plus 4. And once it is done, we will be popping up the value of base pointer, which has been pushed as the top element of the stack, and then whatever is that value, that has been given back to the base pointer register, and then we are going back to the main program using RET command and multi-NP. Next is macros. Macro is a group of repetitive instructions in a program which are codified only once and can be used as many times as necessary. Macro within a macro is nested macro. A macro can be defined anywhere in program using the directives macro and endm. Let's see an example for this. And before moving on to the assembly level programming of macros, from the definition, it looks much similar to a procedure. But it has got, the procedure has got a few disadvantages when it is compared to macros. You know the various procedures involved in the background when a procedure is invoked. You have seen it in the previous slides. You have to move the next instruction address into the stack, then you need to upload your instruction pointer with the address of first instruction of the procedure. After getting the procedure completed, then you need to again pop up the stack for the next address of the instruction, which immediately follows the call instruction so that the execution can resume from there. So lots of linkage is associated with them. So sometimes it requires more code to program the linkage than it is needed to perform the task. This is the case, then procedure may not save the memory and execution time, and it may not save the memory much, and the execution time is considerably increased. These are some of the differences identified between procedure and macros. So procedures are accessed by call and RET mechanism during the program execution, whereas the macros are accessed by the name given to the macro when defined during assembly. And machine code for instructions only put in memory once. Machine code generated for instructions each time it is called. Parameters are passed in registers, memory locations, or stack. Here parameters passed as part of statement which calls macro. Procedures use a stack. Macros does not utilize the opportunity or the availability of stack. A procedure can be defined anywhere in the program using the directive PROC and endp. Macro also can be defined anywhere in the program using the directives macro and endm. Procedures takes huge memory for call, and length of the code for macro is very huge if macros are called for more number of times. Let's see examples. How do you define a macro? So in this example, you are defining a macro named display. How the system comes to know that it's a macro? After the display, it's immediately followed by the keyword macro. And after the macro definition, there is a keyword called endm, which indicates end of macro. So within that, you can see some of the instructions like move ax, sec msg, move ds, ax, so many instructions. So here, so you can understand that this macro is trying to display a message. It is trying to display a message by invoking the interrupt 21h and in populating the AH register with 09 value. So how do you invoke this macro? So now it is defined. How will you invoke this macro? What all you have to do is you need to just write the name of the macro, and the name of the macro here is display. How will you pass parameters in a macro? It is very simpler when compared to procedures in 8086. When compared to the last simple macro example without the parameter, the only difference here is after display macro, you will be writing the parameter, what you are supposed to pass into the macro. Here in this case, I am passing an message. So once we get that, you can see here move ax, segment of msg, we are passing. Now when you are invoking the macro in your previous example for the macro, the first example for the macro, there wasn't any parameters defined like this, display macro msg, it was just display macro. But here there is a parameter msg, so while invoking this macro definition, you can send that data which will be getting in the variable called msg. So display msg1. So when it is invoked msg1, whatever value you are writing in that msg1, that message will be saved in msg. If you are invoking it for the second time, display msg2, again this will be having or replaced by msg2 and functions will be performed as it is defined within the macro. So there is stacks has got very important applications in 8086 programming. Now, stack is a block of memory that can be used for temporarily storing the contents of registers inside the CPU. It is a top-down data structure where elements are accessed using the stack pointer, which gets decremented by 2 as we store a data word into the stack, and it gets incremented by 2 as we retrieve a data from the stack back to the CPU register. So you can understand that when it is a top-down data structure and its elements are accessed using the stack pointer. So the stack pointer currently indicates the top element of the stack. Now it will be decremented by 2 when you store a data word into the stack. When we push something into the stack, the stack pointer will be decremented by 2. So your stack is growing downwards. And when it is gets incremented by 2, when you retrieve the data or when you pop the data from the stack back to any one of the CPU registers, the stack pointer will be incremented by 2. So stack is a LIFO data segment. This is an example for calculating the physical effective address within a stack segment. Your stack segment register is having 5000 H and your stack pointer register is having 2050 H. Both are now 16-bit offset addresses. In order to calculate the physical effective address, as you all know, your stack segment register has to be left shifted by 4 bits. So it is equivalent to multiplying it by 10H. So you'll be getting 50,000 H. That will be added by your stack pointer. So it will be getting the address where the top of the stack element is saved. In this case it is 52,050. It is also reflected in this diagram. So it is growing downwards. Initially the stack segment it is 50,000 H and the stack is saved, or the top element of the stack is somewhere around 2050 offset from the beginning of the stack, and the effective physical effective address calculated is 52,050 H. And we can also do an interesting function using stack. We can swap the values of two registers without the help of any external registers or memory location. Using this stack, we can actually swap the values of two registers. So when you write, see the last 3 sentences of this screen, push AX, what it means, you are actually pushing the value of AX into the stack. Now after this, the top element of your stack will be the value of your AX register. After that, you will be moving the value of BX into AX, because currently AX value is being pushed. There is a backup for the AX value within the stack. It is safe within that stack. Now it is possible to copy the value of BX into AX. Now the value of BX has been copied into AX. Now what should be the value of BX to get it swapped? Now the BX value should get the initial value of AX, and the initial value of AX is safe within the stack. How will we take it out? We have to use the pop command. So pop comma BX. So whatever was the top element of the stack, that will be popped out and that will get saved in BX register. So that's all. Thank you for listening.